Hello, everyone. I am back and I'm here with my wife, Jackie. Um, I wanted to let you guys all experience a different viewpoint from my own. Obviously, before we get started, you can tell that she's wearing a Nebraska Cornhuskers hoodie and I'm wearing a Georgia Bulldogs hoodie. We're wearing this because we love each other, and I'm representing her state. She's representing my team and my state. So let's go. All right. So, as I said before, I kind of wanted to let you all hear a different viewpoint other than my own about what it's like in a world of a blind person. And so, I thought we'd maybe start out by telling them how we met. So we actually met over a dice game. Um, I was working at my private practice and I got a message from somebody while playing a dice game asking if I wanted to play them. And she was the one on the other end. And so that's how it kind of all started, clear back in 2018.
18.
So yeah, so we started talking on there, and that's how this whole relationship began. It's a great game, by the way. It's called Dice World. It's made for blind people. Somebody didn't know that.
Hey, it was a fun game.
Yeah, it still is. It's still we actually still play it to this day. We play it every day for the most part. There are a few days here and there we don't get around to doing it, but um, anyway. So as far as my experience, I've never been obviously married to a fully sighted person in my life, and so she's the lucky winner of that. And so I just want her to tell you what her experience was like when we met and what that was like.
I actually met him at the airport in Jacksonville, Florida, and I had no idea what to expect because we had only chatted online. But lucky for me, he was who he said he was because you just never know. Um, we ended up going to the Cheesecake Factory, and then we drove to my hometown where he was going to stay for the week. We went to a couple stores. I took him to Target, and he's the first fully blind guy I had ever associated with. So guiding him was a little bit tricky. And I actually ran him into one of the shelves at Target and he started bleeding. So great first date, but he did end up marrying me. So I must not have scared him away too bad on
If she
that.
would have hit both legs the same trip, we would have had a problem. But it was only one shin, so we were good. That that whole experience though of and I've flown quite a bit in my life, and so I'm pretty confident when I go to an airport to get help and assistance. So I got there and I roughly knew the direction I needed to go to get to the front entrance to where I'd meet her. And yeah, so we met up there. And she obviously drives, so we were able to go to the places that she had mentioned. uh, and so for me, it's a little bit different when I meet somebody who's never been around anybody who's blind, because I got to kind of help them understand what works for me in terms of how to guide me. If I go sighted guide, or if I'm wanting to use a cane and wanting them to say, hey, over here. And over here doesn't work a whole lot. We're still learning that even all these years into the marriage, this way or that way, or it happens. But yeah, so I had to kind of instruct her. What was that like for you to have to learn to guide me?
um, I struggle with directions myself, so it was a little bit challenging. And I think like when he would use my arm, it was more like I'm just dragging him around, kind of, because I've gotten better over the years, but in my mind, it was just, oh, you're just going to follow me whichever way I go. But that's not always great because he can't see. So he's, trying to figure out what's going on. And I think a challenge came when we were walking and there was a curb. So I've gotten used to being like, hey, curb,
So yeah, when she's walking me around, she tends to walk pretty quick, which I'm a pretty fast walker as well. So it does work out. But if I am uncertain of an area, sometimes I'll kind of pull her back a little bit. So because and we'll communicate that, hey, I'll tell her to slow down a little bit for me, if I feel a little uncertainty. But for the most part, we go sighted guide, which essentially means that I grab the back of her arm, right above her elbow, and then she'll, like she said, tell me if there's a curb, or let me know kind of what's going on, if there's traffic coming, or if there's a door coming up that we're going to go through, or whatever that is we're encountering at that time. Communication is pretty important, obviously, when we're walking around, traveling together, so on, so forth. I had a guide dog several years ago, and in terms of this, again, it's difficult for people to understand what the expectation is when it comes to being able to guide other people that are blind around. As a dog, they kind of just, they're trained, so they know what to exactly do, to stop at a curb, to whether it's curve to the left or to the right, or whatever direction you want them to go, depending on the signal that you give them with the harness. The person, you have to communicate verbally, and so it's a totally different experience from a blind person's perspective when you're using somebody else to help get around. Um, in terms of when we got here to Lincoln, then there was a whole lifestyle change as well, because um, she had never lived with a blind person, obviously, and for me, I've got people in my family that can see, so I'm used to having somebody who can see somewhat or all the way around me. So that was a change, something different. What was that like when you first got up here? And
Um, I had to get used to doing all the driving because I mean, obviously he doesn't drive, and I wasn't used to that before. Um, Organizing our closet and keeping it organized for him was a big thing, so that way he could dress himself and know that he wasn't gonna be wearing something crazy when he needed to go to work. Another thing at first was like the organization of like the freezer or the refrigerator, um, because a lot of stuff he already knew where it was, and if I didn't keep it organized, then it makes him less independent. Another thing that we've kind of gotten used to doing is when we are traveling, he'll ask me when we get out, do I need to go to the front or the back of the vehicle? And I'll usually meet him at either place. So when we go in somewhere, he's not trying to be independent, but I mean, still needs help. I do the laundry, but he'll help put laundry away. Um, he grills, which I'm sure, and he's already done videos about that. He cleans the kitchen. He does the dishes. Um, Cleaning like floors and stuff is harder because of the open space, and he doesn't know, if he's doing a thorough job or not.
if there's not a surface to feel, then that causes it to be a little different. So if there's like I don't know, a coffee stain on the floor or something like that, I might not be able to tell where that's at. So if there's something along those lines, that she would have to come in and wipe that up. Or if I drop something, that's obviously can be a challenge too. Now, usually I'll hear where it's fallen, and I'll attempt to feel around on the ground to where it's at. But after a while, if I can't find it, I surrender. I give up. Game's over. So I'll ask her if she'll help me find it. Um, and then things like, even this phone, doing this recording, it's setting it up so that the camera looks decent, and that again, that we're sitting in a good position. All of those kind of things would be things I would not be able to do alone. I haven't figured that out yet. Maybe there's a way. And that's the other side of it is, if I use assistance like this, sometimes I'll figure something out later on. I'll say, okay, I can do this, and this is how I can make it work for me in order to be independent. And I think that's kind of a give take thing, because sometimes I don't like to give up, and I ought to just give up to let somebody else do it. In terms of if at that time, if something would be done quicker in terms of needing to be more efficient at that time. Which has happened before. If we get something in the mail that has instructions on it, sometimes I have to have her read those instructions. We put together, I don't know, 2 or 3 pieces of exercise equipment. We've put together,
The heater out
yeah,
there.
we've got a natural gas heater outside. We've put that together. She'll read it, and I will attempt to put the pieces together where they go, so on and so forth. So we can teamwork up that way as well. And so, I mean, again, that this is all based upon my abilities and her abilities, things that she can do, and things that I can do. The other area of the house that is fascinating, besides the kitchen, is all of the home automated things that we have set up. I use voice to tell the TV to turn on and off, or I can set the thermostat. I can turn on and off the sprinklers. Uh, I guess that's done through my phone, but there are other functionalities that we do, such as lights. I can turn them on and off, which is interesting because we've been asked before about saving money on electricity, and there probably is parts that are true to that, because again, if I'm up late at night or all and I can't sleep, then sometimes I don't have to worry about having the light on because I can't see. Or if I'm in the bathroom taking a shower, I don't have the lights on because why? There's no need for it. But we have home automated things that help me be more independent as well. She helps me get to work and home from work as well, and so the commute, um, it works pretty slick at this point. She works in the middle of town. I work a little further south of town, so and we live on the north side. So she'll drop me off first, go to work, and then she will pick me up after work and bring me home. Um,
A lot of times we do errands after work, and he's pretty cool about going with me to do that, so I don't have to drop him off and then go again. I know sometimes if I have something to do and he doesn't want to do it, he'll get a ride with someone else from work, um, to save his time or have him do something else at home until I can get home.
yeah, that's the other side of things. Again, we all have we both have our own individual lives too, so there's times where I'm playing on the guitar, or I'm sitting outside of the patio. She'll be doing her own thing, and as far as whenever we need each other, we'll just let each other know, hey, you got to get this done, or I got to get that done. In order for, again, me not being able to see, if we got to get meals prepped, I can't just go inside and prep them. So I can let her know, hey, you know, I would need this to be able to get something done, whether it's reading instructions or whatever that may
Mm.
be.
We've FaceTime before when I wasn't here, so he could get meat seasoned. So I help him figure out what seasoning he wants in the cabinet. So that's interesting. And actually, before we even met each other, we FaceTimed, and everyone's like, "Why would you FaceTime? He can't see you." And I'm like, "No, but I can see him." So it
That's a
was
that's a
it.
one-sided deal.
Yeah. So I mean, it was good for me, especially being a female in a different state, like to know, oh, I am talking to who I thought I was talking to, and I feel like that was good for safety reasons, if nothing else.
Yeah, and then again, she may be out and about, or even downstairs or wherever. I can FaceTime her and say, hey, which seasoning is this? And she'll be able to tell me with FaceTime, which works pretty slick. Um, as we do this video, and we're thought about things that we want to talk about, there's so many things that we do probably naturally because we've done it for so long that we're not even thinking about in terms of how she's helping me function and navigate through life. Um, so Yeah.
And it's interesting because he is very good at math, and so he'll do our budgeting, but I'll like help set up the bills on bill pay and things like that, which is something that two-sided people wouldn't really worry about. And a lot of times the female is doing all the budgeting and stuff, but he's that's something that comes easy to him, and so we work together in that
Hmm.
regard too. Just
Hmm.
like today, I was paying some bills and he was going through and seeing what had already come out and what hadn't, because we have the budget.
Yeah, and that again, we get something in the mail. Now, I do have the ability to read some things using my phone, um, whether it's letters or mailings. But at the same time, though, it is very convenient to be able to say, "Hey, what does this say?" versus having to get my phone out, sift through all the information to get the information I'm looking for on a particular piece of paper.
On the daily, I hear, what do we get in the mail? What do we get in the mail?
Now I bring it in. Now I do that.
He does. He goes and gets the mail. He takes the trash down to the curb, without my assistance. He does a lot more chores than even a sighted guy in my experience. So I'm grateful for that, because it definitely helps when we both work full-time jobs.
Hmm. And then, like if you go and pay a bill over the phone, or if you are needing to give somebody a credit card number, she's able to read the card number off of the card for me, because I'm not able to necessarily do that. Or if somebody says, "Hey, here's a phone number. I want you to call this particular place," while I'm on the phone to them, I can't put that information down very well, so I can dictate to her the number or the information that we would need to be able to communicate to somebody else. So that's another way that she helps me a great deal, is through kind of secretarial work, which that's what she does. So
Yep. And people ask me all the time, about the voiceover on his phone that he uses to hear, and they're like, "How can he focus on that?" And I said, "Well, when you can't see, like, you don't have any other choice but to focus on that." So I've gotten pretty good about being able to navigate his phone with the voiceover on, even though I don't need it. But a lot of times he'll be like, "Here, can you do this for me?" "Oh, the voiceover is off, so you got this." So he's good about flipping it on and off, for us to help each other.
mhm.
And a lot of times, like, people are like, can you understand what his phone's saying? And I'll be like, yeah, because I'm just used to hearing it. So I know exactly what he's doing most of the time. Now, a lot of times I tune it out because I'm doing my own thing. And I try to give him some privacy with that, because I would want the same if it was me.
Mhm.
So,
So now here comes the tough questions.
oh boy.
What's the stressful side of living with somebody who's blind?
Um, for me personally, my personality is a lot different than his. I'm more passive, more submissive, you could say. And so to have to be able to step up and do things for him that I wouldn't normally do for someone who could see, that's kind of been a challenge, for him too, because his personality is, he's the man, he's going to take care of it, he's going to do it. But sometimes he has to step back and allow me to help him do things, just because he's physically unable to, because he cannot see. So I think that's been a challenge for me. I've kind of had to overcome the need for, you know him to lead that interaction or that task, because he just can't. That's probably the biggest challenge for me.
Okay. What's the advantages?
um well, he's never seen what I look like, so I guess that's part of the. I will say, like, I can't ask him, "Does this look nice?" because he can't tell me. Um, so that's a pro and a con, because I don't have to worry about, oh, do I look good enough for him today, or, oh, does this match? So that I have to rely on asking my mom and my sister a lot if I want to know if something looks nice, or matches, or for the occasion, because that's one thing I can't ask him. But on the flip side of that, like I don't really have to worry about him thinking that I don't look nice or my hair is a mess or like because he doesn't care. I mean, he has his own ways to know approximately how I look or don't look. But otherwise, like it's it's interesting for sure. I will say though, like it not that it makes me more confident, but I don't worry as much about um if I'm hitting a certain standard in society or not. I mean, I want to take care of myself and look decent, but I don't have to worry about him being like, oh, I'm going to leave her because she, gained 10 pounds or whatever.
So, in terms of when you go out in public, you kind of mentioned it. What is it like for you to walk around with somebody who's blind?
Um, at first, I noticed that people would stare at us a lot. And as someone who is kind of shy in certain things, speaking of, this is really hard for me to do this kind of video for him, but I wanted to be a part of that for him. My thoughts when people look at us is because of our age difference, I feel like they think that I'm just like a caregiver for him. So that gets a little bit awkward for me sometimes, but I don't think it bothers him. I mean, obviously he
Well, I
can't,
can't see the people, so I'm
but
all good with it.
but
But
even
yeah,
if he could, I don't think that it would bother you.
no, probably not.
Um, but I like it's a lot better now because I'm used to it. Um, and I guess it's not that I don't care what people think, but I'm confident enough in our relationship that he's not concerned about it. I'm not concerned about it. It just is what it is. And we just do us and
Mhm.
don't worry about what other people think.
Right. And then when we go to restaurants, um, she tends to be the one that has to read the menu, because I could read Braille, but it's going to take me a minute to get through whatever I'm getting through with reading all the different options. So she'll read through that stuff.
Yeah. And a lot of times he kind of knows what type of food he's wanting if it's a place that has a variety of food. And so a lot of times I'll say, what are you feeling? And then I'll go to that section and just read the stuff off of that. And usually that cuts down on reading the whole thing. Sometimes he's undecided and I will need to read the whole thing, which I mean, it's part of what it is. Like that kind of stuff doesn't bother me.
That and it takes a little longer too. So when we sit down, it's people come over and they say, okay, well, here's a couple menus. She's not only looking for me, but she's looking for herself too. So it takes us a little bit longer a lot of times when we sit down at a restaurant to kind of sift through to figure out what we want because of that. So
I was just going to say, and sometimes if we know where we're going to go ahead of time, we'll look at the menu ahead of time to kind of get some ideas so that way it doesn't quite take as long. Um, and I will say for me, I I don't like people to have to wait on us. And that's one thing that like I'm trying to learn that it's okay because things take longer for us. And for example, when we fly, a lot of times we'll go to the we'll get to go to the front of the line because it does take longer for me to guide him on the plane and us to get situated. Um, which is nice for me because I get anxiety about flying. And so if I'm able to get in there and get situated, then it seems to go a little bit smoother. But I know that's one advantage of having a blind husband. You get to cut the line at the airport.
yeah, there you go. So the another kind of that same context is like when we go to whether it's an airport or it could be a restaurant, anywhere in public. If I have to go to the bathroom, I'll go inside the bathroom, and she will have to stand out there and wait for me, which could probably be a little awkward. I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, because I've had people be like, "Oh, are you waiting?" I'm like, "Oh no, I'm just waiting on my husband," and they just look at me crazy. But I'm like, "It is what it is." A lot of times, I'll have to. Someone will go to shake his hand, or they don't. His eyes don't look all the time like he's blind, and so a lot of times, I'll have to say, "Oh, he's blind. He's not being rude. He didn't see you. He can't see. Things like that." And so once people know, they get a little bit more understanding. But sometimes eh, people don't know, and then they get kind of cranky about some things. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, well, occasionally they can get frustrated with that. So another thing that she'll help me with is at our church, I have the opportunity to provide communion as part of a member of our church. So this is what she'll do is she will hand me the trays at times, and so I will be able to kind of get a general sense on where I'm, who's coming up, so on and so forth, and so there's little things like that she'll do to help me out as well. So that this again, it's a learning curve with it all. We had to kind of figure out what that looks like in terms of when we first do something. Sometimes it doesn't go as smooth. It's about practice, and kind of get it down pat to what works for both of us in terms of completing a task. So
I'm starting to wonder if he even knows how to use his cane anymore since I've been guiding him for so
hey,
long.
I used it, yeah, yesterday, 2 days ago.
When I first moved here, he would take public transportation a lot more. And I can't remember why. The weather just being bad is why we stopped doing that. I don't really remember. I mean, if I'm able to take him, then I do. Sometimes he has to get rides from his kids or other people or take the bus. But he doesn't mind.
Yeah, you do what you got to do. That's for sure. That's for sure. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for the video, unless there's something extra that you wanted to add in, Marianne.
I can't think of anything right now.
Okay. Well, I hope this video has helped, whether you are blind and are getting in a new relationship with somebody who's sighted, or the other way around, if you're sighted and you're getting in a relationship with somebody who's blind. If you guys have any questions or thoughts or anything you want to know about, let us know in the comments section. Otherwise, please hit that like button, and I'll see you in the next video.
Hold on. Just, there's never a dull moment when you live with a blind guy.
Never a dull moment. Go Big Red.
Go Dogs.